Step 4, making an offer. Now, when you find the home you want to buy, the next step is the offer. Let me explain exactly what an offer is. An offer is when you, the buyer, sign a purchase agreement with your chosen terms, including the price you want to pay, the date you want to close, etc. It's the starting point, and it is signed by you. Your realtor will submit that to the seller to prove your interest as well as your qualifications. What I mean by that is that your offer is going to need to be accompanied by either your pre-approval letter if you're getting a loan or your proof of funds if you're buying cash. Now, let's talk a little about your offer. Your Premier Listings realtor will complete due diligence and discuss it with you so that together you can make a logical offer. We, your realtors, will talk to the listing agent to gain more information on how to best proceed. Now, you're going to want to put your best foot forward with this offer, so be sure to follow their guidance as each situation is unique. You're going to want to consider things like, number 1, the asking price, because this is the price the sellers would ideally like to receive. Number 2, comps in the area. Those are similar homes for selling for similar prices. Number 3, your budget and your needs. It has to make sense for you. The offer is going to include the following key components: purchase price, escrow deposit, closing date, inspection period, and financing contingency. Now, let me explain a little more about all of these things. Number 1, escrow deposit. When buyer and seller agree to the terms, you're going to need to put funds as the buyer, funds down, which is going to be used at closing towards your total cost. Now, this deposit shows the seller that you're serious and it prevents you from walking away without completing your part of the agreement. It's an assurance to the seller that you're serious. Since remember, the seller has now agreed to take their property off the market because you are under contract to purchase it. Now, the seller wants to know that you're going to close, and this proves that. Now again, let me reiterate that the deposit is going to go towards the price. It is not an additional amount that you need on top of your purchase price. Now, another part of your offer is going to be who pays for what expenses associated with this closing. Now, this is going to be detailed on your contract on page 3, section 9. Now, let me go into further detail about this. The state of Florida has a title insurance premium that is promulgated, which is a fancy way of saying that it is set by the state. However, that does not mean that you have to purchase title insurance. There are 2 title policies, an owner's policy and a lender's policy. If you are a cash buyer, you do not have to purchase a lender's title policy since you don't have a lender. But you should, and I strongly consider that you buy an owner's title policy, which will save you from any issues that the previous owner may have had with title, such as liens or debt. Now, to understand how much title insurance is in Florida with the promulgated formula, you can follow a general standard for calculating the baseline cost. The cost of title insurance depends on the purchase price of the property. Generally, buyers pay on average 2 to 5% of the purchase price in title insurance total. Now, for purchase prices up to $100,000, the Florida title insurance premium would be calculated at $5.75 per $1,000 of the purchase price. So, a $100,000 property would have a title insurance premium of $5.75. For homes with a purchase price over $100,000, the title insurance premium drops to $5 per $1,000. So, for a $300,000 purchase, the title insurance premium would be $15.75. The major difference between Palm Beach and Broward County is the person who picks the title company and therefore pays for the lender's policy. In Palm Beach County, the seller chooses the title company and pays for the lender's title policy, while in Broward County, the buyer picks the title company and pays for the lender's policy. The buyer is also going to have to pay for the owner's policy. Because remember, if you're listening closely, you've heard me talk about 2 different policies: the lender's title policy and the owner's title policy. The lender's title policy protects the lender from any title defects, and the owner's title policy protects the owner. I also want to explain the difference between the escrow agent and a title agent. They are 2 different things, although sometimes the same party will act as both. An escrow agent is responsible to hold the escrow funds and distribute them as the parties instruct. For example, if you choose a different escrow agent than the title agent who's closing the property, on closing day, the escrow agent is going to transfer the funds to the title agent so that they are correctly applied to your closing. In Florida, we are not an attorney state, so the title agent is responsible for the closing. Some buyers choose to have an attorney, but it is not necessary. Now, in your offer, if you're obtaining a loan, Section 8 of the purchase agreement explains that the contract is contingent on obtaining a loan approval within a certain number of days. Usually, it's anywhere between 20 and 30 days. Now, during this time, you, the buyer, must make your loan application within a certain number of days, which is often about 5 or less. The contract states that you must use, and I quote, good faith and diligent effort to obtain your approval. You're going to want to get your documents in to your loan officer and work closely with them in a timely fashion. And if for any reason your loan is denied within this loan approval period and you can't close, you are going to be able to have your escrow funds returned to you. However, once this period passes, your escrow deposit is no longer refundable. Here's what happens next. Your realtor will submit your signed offer to the seller. The seller will respond by either accepting the offer, countering the offer, or rejecting your offer. Of course, our goal is either for them to accept it or to counter. Keep in mind that counteroffers are often done verbally because time is of the essence, and we're going to want to communicate quickly. You should be prepared to respond and figure out if you and the seller can agree on terms and meet eye to eye. Now, once all terms have been agreed upon, your Premier Listings realtor will write up the final version of the purchase agreement, and both parties will sign the final copy. This is now called an executed contract. Before we go to the next step, let me explain another key part of how contracts are written in South Florida. Traditionally, contracts are written on what's called an as-is contract. This means that you are making an offer on the property in its as-is condition, which is the condition it is currently in. That doesn't mean that there is anything wrong with the property. It just means that the seller is under no obligation to make any repairs or provide any credits. Most of the time, the buyer is going to have an inspection period, which will enable you, the buyer, to inspect the property and determine if you want to move forward or not. During that period, you're under no obligation. I'm going to explain more about this when we get to our next step, which explains what happens after you're under contract.